these nominees check their suitability to hold office. There may be a feeling, Honorable Speaker, that this or that nominee may not sit well in a certain docket. But again, in line with Article 152(2) of the Constitution, the prerogative to reassign dockets is vested on the President. Honorable Speaker, I know there are feelings that probably this particular person, his qualifications, his experience would sit better in another ministry than the ministry they have been nominated to. And it was our feeling, Honorable Speaker, in the Committee of Appointments, that we do leave that to the President in his own prerogative to realign and reassign dockets as time may demand, and also as he may find fit in terms of where he wants to sit his nominees and his cabinet secretaries in an endeavor to deliver to the people of Kenya. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, on behalf of the committee, allow me to thank all the nominees for offering themselves to serve the country. And in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., who once said that life's most urgent question is what you are doing for others. As leaders, Honorable Speaker, we should always be guided by what is best for the people of Kenya. The House is mandated to either approve or reject nomination for appointment based on suitability, and the outcome can be either an approval or rejection. An approval simply signifies a committee established that a person is suitable for the office to which he has been nominated. In the same lens, Honorable Speaker, a rejection. Honorable Speaker.
Order, members. Order. Kiborek.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying, in the same lens, a rejection only connotes a person's unsuitability to the office to which he or she is being nominated, and is in no way an indictment of the capability or competence of a nominee to perform other responsibilities. I say this, Honorable Speaker, with all due respect to the nominee, Ms. STELLA SOI, that her rejection is not an indictment in any way of her capability or competence to perform other responsibilities. It is only her suitability to hold the position of Cabinet Secretary for Gender. And therefore, His Excellency the President has a prerogative to nominate her into any other position other than that position that she had been nominated for. And the President also has the prerogative to nominate another person from the same region, the same area, the same village.
Give him 2 minutes.
I would encourage the President to nominate another equally qualifying candidate from the same region, the same place, and as I said, with requisite experience and qualifications to serve someone suitable to serve in that office. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I now beg to move and ask all of you, honorable members, all of you, in one accord, to support this report where we all put in a lot of man hours up to late this morning, Honorable Speaker, when we adopted this report, having considered all the issues that came before the committee. And I am confident once approved, this new cabinet and those that will be vetting this Friday, and if we adopt this report as it is, when a replacement for this lady is nominated and vetted, we'll have a cabinet that, in the words of Martin Luther King, will serve the people and will look at what they can do for others, not for themselves, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move and take this opportunity to ask all of you to support this report, as I request my counterpart and my good friend, the Honorable JUNET Mohammed. I don't know whether he is now the minority whip or the incoming leader of minority, the Honorable JUNET Mohammed, to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I stand to second the motion, Mr. Speaker, the approval of the nominees. And Mr. Speaker, also support the motion because, Mr. Speaker, this is, as you said earlier, constitutional responsibility of this House to make sure that this country has a cabinet secretary, Mr. Speaker. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, previously, before this constitution, the President used to appoint cabinet ministers as he wishes and dismiss them as he wishes, Mr. Speaker. But now, under this new constitution, there is a requirement, constitutional requirement, that any nominee that has been brought by the President must be approved by this House. And today we are here, Mr. Speaker, exercising that constitutional mandate. And that's why I want to urge my colleagues to take this matter of the approval very serious, Mr. Speaker. The confirmation of cabinet nominees, Mr. Speaker, is not just a procedural, Mr. Speaker, formality, but it's a vital process that shapes the trajectory of the governance of our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, long time, and you are a veteran politician as you are a lawyer. Mr. Speaker, the President used to nominate anybody if he feels like. Whether you are academically qualified, whether you have the experience, doesn't matter. Even if you have never stepped in a classroom, Mr. Speaker, the President has the prerogative to appoint you as a minister. But at this point in time in this country, Mr. Speaker, you will be nominated and Parliament will look at your suitability and whether you have the capacity to perform, Mr. Speaker. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, these nominees went through rigorous evaluation, Mr. Speaker, and looked at the experiences, Mr. Speaker. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you as the chairman of the committee, because this committee has put a lot of man-hour into this matter, Mr. Speaker, took a lot of time to scrutinize these members, Mr. Speaker. And every nominee appeared before the committee in person, and all questions have been put across to them, and a lot of them answered, Mr. Speaker, satisfactorily as per the report of the committee. But, Mr. Speaker, the question that we need to ask ourselves is that why are we in this situation at this point in time, Mr. Speaker? Why are we vetting ministers again mid-term, Mr. Speaker, when the term of the election has not ended, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we have found ourselves in this situation because of our own making, Mr. Speaker. And one of the things that has come out in the vetting process is that the issue that has brought us to this situation was captured very well in our vetting process, Mr. Speaker. And we captured that the issue of arrogance, opulence, and show-off, Mr. Speaker. And we put those questions to the nominees, and majority of them took their time to answer that question, Mr. Speaker, and told us that they are not people of show-off.
Order, members. Order. Members on the majority side, try and minimize your levels and tones of conversation so
Mr.
that
Speaker,
we can follow the proceedings.
Mr. Speaker, members of the majority side, some of them are being disturbed by what has happened in the vetting committee, the rejection of one of the nominees, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must have a vetting committee. And what the committee has done must be taken very serious, Mr. Speaker. The committee spent many man-hours to check on the suitability of every candidate, Mr. Speaker. And the committee is not doing any victimization. The committee is not doing any victimization. The committee did their work in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of the country, Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Approval Act, Mr. Speaker. If a nominee is incompetent, the committee cannot say anything other than that he is incompetent or she is incompetent, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Member for Order. Take your seat, Junet. Member for Keyo South. I'll give you an opportunity to have your say. This is not a public rally. This is the National Assembly of Kenya. The right for everybody to say what they are saying corresponds with the right for everybody to listen to those who are saying. Just listen to your colleagues, you'll also be listened to in the same decorum.
Mr. Speaker, when we say as a committee that someone is not suitable for this job, We are not imputing any improper motive of that person, Mr. Speaker. We are just saying that person is not suitable for this job. He can do another job elsewhere, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, we are not here in this National Assembly to defend and protect anyone. We are just here to say the truth as it is, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the committee found majority of the nominees to be suitable for the job they have been given. Mr. Speaker, it is this House that can hold people accountable. We cannot hold members accountable outside this House, Mr. Speaker. It is our constitutional mandate to hold people accountable here, Mr. Speaker. What is the point of sending someone to a job and after a year and 2 years again, you have to recruit again and you're fresh, Mr. Speaker, like what is happening now, Mr. Speaker? We must take our job very serious this time because the ministers that we vetted at the beginning of this term were assumed that they are going to finish their term up to the election, Mr. Speaker, but they couldn't do. Out of 22 cabinet ministers who are in office, almost over 10 of them are not in office as we speak today, Mr. Speaker. 10 of them are at home.
Give him another 5 minutes.
More than half of the cabinet that was vetted by this House, Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of the term are at home. They have all been dropped because of reasons, incompetency, and other issues. So, Mr. Speaker, it is the prerogative of this House to decide who is going to be approved and who is not going to be approved. But we must take the report of the committee very serious because the committee did public participation. They interviewed the nominees, they listened to them, they looked at their CVs, they looked at their compliance documents, they looked at their physical appearance, they looked at their mental, everything, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge this House, let us not belittle the report of the committee. The committee report is as important as what we are going to decide here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I want to say is that we looked very much on the issue of integrity and accountability, Mr. Speaker. There were allegations that have been raised by certain members. There were issues that were raised against, for example, a nominee, Honorable Oparanya, Mr. Speaker. Issues of corruption, and we clarified, we said that the EACC has written, and the Director of Public Prosecution wrote to Parliament and said that there are no charges against that nominee, Mr. Speaker. And based on that, we made a decision. And himself, he appeared there and said, if there is any iota of evidence on him, on allegations of corruption, he is willing to resign, even if he's appointed, Mr. Speaker. Issues of drugs were raised about Hassan Ali Joe. The Minister for Interior, by then George Saitoti, came here and brought a report against him. Later, a report was brought to Parliament a week later that cleared him, Mr. Speaker. We looked into all those issues, Mr. Speaker, and we cleared all those people. Issues of opulence, sideshow, what's it called, arrogance, and sort of were leveled against Honorable Murkomen. We looked at him, he came with a tie and a suit that did not look very expensive for that day. He should not put on another one going forward. He should continue with the same ones that he came to the committee, Mr. Speaker. And it was clear on those points, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we looked at the issues of commitment to public service, Mr. Speaker. Most of the nominees showed high level of commitment to public duty, Mr. Speaker. You could see the way they were answering the questions, and they said that they are willing and ready to serve the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say this. There is nothing that stops this House to impeach any CS who does not perform his functions again. That responsibility again is with us here, Mr. Speaker. And the day a CS nominee does not perform his functions in accordance with the Constitution and in accordance with the wishes of Kenyans, we have the responsibility again to remove him from office and to impeach him. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the nominees that once you assume office, Mr. Speaker, kindly have in mind what Kenyans expect of you, Mr. Speaker. We interviewed the nominee for Interior, Mr. Speaker, and we told him there are many complaints about deaths in this country when people are demonstrating. He has to make sure, he has to put into consideration the sanctity of life, Mr. Speaker, that Kenyans must not die for exercising their freedoms and rights, Mr. Speaker. Demonstration is allowed in the country, but also the rights of other Kenyans must be respected when somebody is doing a demonstration, Mr. Speaker. So we have looked at everything and everything that is possible, and we have concluded that 19 nominees are suitable for office. Mr. Speaker, what I am proud of today, Mr. Speaker, are my colleagues whom I was with them in the same party who have joined now the executive, Mr. Speaker. It has proved to me that the Raila Odinga Academy, School of Politics, is the best school of politics in this country, Mr. Speaker. Look at the kind of nominees they have donated to the Gazette, Mr. Speaker. Hassan Ali Joho, Oparanya, Upio Wandai, and Mbadi, Mr. Speaker. Those are the best nominees this country can have, Mr. Speaker. The best experts this country can have, Mr. Speaker. When they appeared before the committee, Mr. Speaker, the committee was perplexed. They said, we didn't know ODM have this kind of expertise, Mr. Speaker. We thought ODM is just hecklers and people who throw stones, people who make noise in this town, Mr. Speaker. But now we have proved to Kenyans and to the public and to this House that the best expertise is found in ODM, Mr. Speaker. Those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Order. Honorable members. Order. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question, which is that taking into consideration the findings of the Committee on Appointments and its second report on the vetting of the nominees for appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries, laid on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 7th August 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution, and Section 3 and 8